to a place to yap, where big feelings meet even bigger opinions. I'm your girl Taj. This is your weekly permission slip to speak your truth, feel all the feels, and grow through what you go through. Before we dive into today's episode, I want you to take a deep breath. This space is for you. We live in a world that tells us to wipe our faces, swallow our feelings, and keep it moving. Like our emotions are something to hide. But here, you don't have to pretend. You don't have to hold it together for anyone. Today, we're talking about tears. The kind that sneak up on you, the kind that you fight back, the kind that spill out before you can even stop them. This isn't about weakness. It's about release. It's about letting your body do what it knows how to do when words aren't enough. So if you've been holding it in, you're safe here. This episode matters because too many of us are silently breaking, performing strength, and denying ourselves the release we desperately need. I want to normalize crying, not as a sign of weakness, but as a sign of courage. Letting go, even in tears, is a form of healing. Whether you've been crying behind closed doors or holding it all in, this episode is your reminder that you're allowed to feel, you're allowed to break, and you're allowed to rebuild, softer and stronger than before. This week's affirmation: tears do not make me weak. They remind me I'm still feeling, I'm still healing, and I'm still human. Hey guys, so I came across this video where this girl was talking about growing up, she didn't cry and she viewed crying as a weakness and she can't stand to see other people cry. I started to think about myself and I had that same mentality, especially which I've talked about in so many episodes, and I'm probably going to continue to talk about growing up in survival mode. That was one of those things that you had to keep at bay or felt like you had to keep it at bay. You couldn't cry or you couldn't show your emotions. It was one of those situations where stop crying before I give you something to cry about. I have something going on that's making me cry, but you're telling me not to cry. I grew up in the era where you would get whoopings during those. It's like, stop crying, but I'm in pain. That's why I'm crying. That's obviously different than a cry that you're not expecting to come out. I was listening to a podcast that had Lauren London on it, and she was talking about the tears are going to come out regardless because they're built up because you're not crying. It was Christmas. I believe it was actually 2020. It was a pandemic. I never really cried in front of my kids. I would always cry in the shower. I would cry in my room in their sleep. I never wanted them to see me cry or see me upset. I don't think I could regulate my emotions enough to explain why I was crying to them. My mom, she passed away in 2014, and my husband had got me custom sweater and shirt with her picture on it. I was not expecting him to get me something so sentimental, so I just cried like a baby. I forgot that my kids were even in the room. Him and I were exchanging gifts. I remember just crying, and my son looked at me and I was like nervous because I was like, oh man, I forgot he was here. He took off his glasses and he was like, Mom, that's the most beautiful thing I ever saw. I think we put so much emphasis on being strong for our children when you're a parent that you don't realize that type of stuff is normal. I didn't grow up with that being normal. The fact that he looked at it as such a beautiful thing, it's like my mom is human versus like my mom is strong and she's Superwoman and she never cries and she never does this and she never gets emotional. He was like, that's the most beautiful thing that I saw. One of those things that I'm trying to do better with is teaching them like it's okay to be aware of your emotions and you don't have to hide that. You don't have to feel like you're a robot because we're human beings. We have emotions and we're attached to our emotions, and it's okay if we cry. It's giving yourself empathy and compassion to understand who you were in that moment. Also, they're like, this is even not even just you being a mother. It's the fact that as women, especially Black women, we are taught to be strong and we are raised by strong women, young Black women. There's so many expectations for us to be tough and strong and keep everything together, even though inside we are screaming, we are struggling. a lot of times it causes us to lack empathy and compassion for others, and even for ourselves. We're so focused on holding it all together. So when my son said that to me, he humanized me. He made me feel like it was safe for me to let my guard down and for me to show him that it's okay to cry. It's a safe space. Me crying is not a weakness. Me crying is the strongest thing that I can show him. And then it allows him to see me not as Superwoman, but as his mother and as a human being. I was that person where I lacked empathy for others. I didn't give myself any because I wasn't allowed to. And anytime I see my mother cry, it was because she was getting abused. So to me, as a kid, I related to, oh, when you're in that type of agony, that's when you cry, but everything else is fine. Maybe that's just my child brain processing those moments that I had to experience. It just made me develop a lack of empathy for others when you look at other people crying, and it could be for something that you deem small, but to them it's big or it makes them emotional. It's, you haven't been through nothing and you're crying about that. It's toxic. I had to work on that. At the end of the day, like, I'm not a robot. And neither are you. We have to change that generational mindset. We're neglecting our emotions. We're neglecting a natural emotion that we should have and that we do have. What's the point of disassociating ourselves from crying, from feeling? That doesn't heal you. That doesn't help you. That just builds up this tolerance of you feeling like you're putting on a mask to be strong for everybody when you're really struggling inside. Not only are you struggling inside, you're not even giving other people the signal that you need help, that you need a release, that you need space held for you. You're showing everyone, I got it together. I'm the strong one. I'm in control, but you're not. You're not in control. It's coming out in other ways. You're just adding to your stress. You're adding to your cortisol. You're adding to your own pain and your own agony because you are trying to wear this mask of strength. That is what a lot of us, unfortunately, were taught. To be strong, to not show tears, to not show empathy and compassion for ourselves. There's almost like this guilt that you have as a person of color in America and in the world that you can't cry, that you can't be sad, that you can't be upset. It's almost like you're not allowed unless something traumatic happens or something devastating, or you are going through a huge moment of grief, that's when it's allowed. Or you're in like a severe pain, that's when it's allowed. And still you're looked at like, how dare you cry? You have the nerve to be upset. Then there's other people show tears and show emotions and they get the utmost empathy and compassion, yet and still we're not supposed to be emotional. We're not supposed to struggle. We're not allowed to be sad. We're not allowed to feel. Feeling is natural. We're not allowed to cry. Even the fact that we've had to shut down or been conditioned to shut down our emotions, it's not even giving us permission to be human. And guess what? We do. We dehumanize the people around us. It's just a reflection of what we are doing to ourselves. That's why I can understand what the girl was saying in the video. I was the same way. When I lost my mom and my friends came and surrounded me, one friend had so much empathy for me that she started crying when I was crying. It almost took me aback because it felt so foreign. What does my pain have to do with your pain? But it was that she held space for me in a moment when I felt deep grief, pain, and shock. She cares and loves me so much. She wanted to connect with me and she wanted to help me and she wanted to show me that she was there for me, and I appreciate that. It was such a foreign thing to me in that moment at that time. It was something that I wasn't used to. Growing up in domestic violence, you have to constantly be on defense mode. You have to constantly try to be 2 steps ahead of the problem, and it causes you to focus so much on those things that you don't even do the basic human things as a kid. I grew up so fast. So when my kids are experiencing things, at first I had the same reaction. I took a step back, like, is this really happening? Some people are going to judge and say, I can't believe that you wouldn't understand, but you almost have to reparent yourself and you have to retrain your mind. When it's trained a certain type of way, those things are foreign to you because as a child you didn't have that experience or those things weren't explained. So when you see it with your own children, you're having to check yourself and say, oh, let me explain. Let me show empathy and compassion. Let me be here. Let me hold space. It's foreign. You're just learning and growing. And that's a part of the process of unlearning and relearning is this was not provided to me, but this is what I want to provide for my children and for the people around me and for myself, because now I'm at an age where I can understand that those things didn't help me. I need to implement those things now. This week's Yap Back Prompt is, when was the last time you let yourself cry without feeling guilty for it? What did you learn from that moment? Send me a DM, email, leave me a voice note, or comment so we can discuss. Now let's get back into the app. In this episode, you're going to hear me talk a lot about cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that our body produces. It's like a built-in alarm system. When we have a little bit of cortisol, it keeps us alert. It keeps us ready to take on the day, take on any challenges that might come our way. When we're holding on to too much, like when we don't cry and we're holding in all of our emotions because we're trying to put on this mask of strength, and we're constantly carrying so much stress, pain, or joy or overwhelming emotions, we're like a volcano. You're just holding it in, you're pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down, but it starts to wear you down. Your body's trying to figure out what to do with it. Where is it going to go? When you don't cry, your body's not allowed to release that volcano of emotions to keep your body regulated and your emotions regulated. It's building up and it's going to come out in other ways. If you ever felt that moment of when you just cry and cry and cry, and right after you're done crying, you feel exhausted and tired and you just feel overwhelmed. Your body is trying to regulate itself. Once it resets and you start to come down, you feel light, you feel calm, and you feel like that was a good cry. I really, really needed that. I was never taught about cortisol. I didn't know what cortisol was. I didn't know that me not crying was not helping my body release stress. I didn't know that it was going to help regulate my emotions. I didn't even know cortisol had so much to do with like your stress responses, your energy, like your blood sugar metabolism, your inflammation. I did not know that was that important. Crying is so necessary for your health. It's something that I just want to help reframe your mind, because I had to reframe my mind on that subject. We have so much going, especially in 2025. Millennials have came through so much in our 30s, and I don't even know when millennials the year starts and ends. I know for me personally, we've experienced so many things. Yes, you need to release that. Sometimes people go to the gym. Sometimes people run that and they release their emotions, but nothing beats a good old cry session. And I think crying is a way to process grief, frustration, all of those things. Even when you're happy or overwhelmed, like when I laugh, I cry. I laugh till I cry. When I'm really, really angry, I cry. The tears are coming out regardless. In those two situations, I can't control the fact that I'm crying. I feel like I have so much control because I can control when I'm sad, and you're not gonna see me cry. You're not gonna use it against me. But it's an emotion. It's okay to be sad if you feel like somebody disrespected you, feel like somebody crossed you, if you feel like somebody disrespected your boundaries. There's so many reasons why you can cry or be sad, and it's okay. You're human. Being vulnerable with yourself, you give yourself permission and other people permission to cry. With me being a mother, I have to be the model for my kids to show them that they can release their emotions. You gain so much clarity and relief after you all of that out. I remember the time that my daughter was playing outside with our neighbor, and there was a bird in our front yard, and there was also a stray cat, and the stray cat had gotten the bird, and the kids were able to get the bird away from the cat. And they thought like the bird would be fine, but unfortunately the bird ended up dying, and it was right in front of my daughter, son, and my neighbor. She was so upset. at first, when she was like really emotional, my first reaction was like, why are you crying? What's going on? She was just hysterical, like the bird just died. I had to take a step back. In my adult mind, I'm like, it's not that deep. It's just a bird. In her child mind, she had never experienced death that close to her. Even though that I talk to my kids about death, I talk to my kids about people passing, I've never actually brought my children to a funeral. I would explain. They were kind of too young to really understand, or at least I thought. So when I brought her inside and I put my hand on her heart and I put her head on me, her heart was beating so fast because she was experiencing so many emotions at one time. I taught her to breathe, and I was talking to her and I was telling her, there is nothing wrong with you crying. That means you feel deeply for people and that you feel deeply for living things. That means you have empathy. That means you care about living beings. That is 100% normal. That is 100% okay. Everyone dies. We just don't know the day or the hour, but everyone dies. It made me check myself because I wasn't taught about things like that. Like, my mom talked to us about death and talked to us about what she wanted as far as like her wishes when she passed away, but she never really gave us clarity on those type of situations. So that was a moment that I was able to have and explain with my daughter that there was nothing wrong with her crying and there was nothing wrong with her feeling those deep emotions. And instead of being upset with her for showing that, I explained to her and helped her through her emotions. I wasn't taught that. Now I'm able to give my child that, even though my initial reaction wasn't probably the best. At first I was a little frustrated because I'm like, what are you crying for? Then I had to understand and look at it from her perspective and see she's crying because she just saw an animal die in front of her face. That's a traumatic thing for her as a child, for anyone, if you've never even seen death up close. I wanted her to understand that she didn't have to feel guilty for crying. Take deep breaths and understand that it is okay. You are still here and you are still alive, and life is precious, and you just have to learn how to explain and reframe their mind. It just taught me that inner child in myself, like when I'm crying and when I'm upset about things and other people may not understand, I have to regulate and reframe my mind that and validate my own emotions. And I had to validate her emotions in that moment. It is okay for you to reparent yourself and see how you are in those situations and how other people are in those situations. And just because they don't react in the way that you react doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. Maybe I'm not going to cry because a bird passed away, but because she cried when the bird passed away doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with her. We just have different attachments to our emotions. And I love the fact that she's so deeply attached to her emotions that she is able to cry for those type of things, because then she's not holding all of those emotions in. When she gets to an older age where she just starts lashing out and I don't understand why, and she doesn't even understand why, that's the reason we're taught at a young age that our emotions are not valid, our feelings are not valid, and they are valid. So that was a very big lesson that I had to learn. And I didn't want her to deal with that silently or feel like she can't feel, because she can. And so can you. I hope that you got some clarity and some information from this episode that's really going to help you reframe how you look at crying. Understanding that we don't have to be strong every second of every day. You don't have to smile or laugh through every storm. Your tears are not weakness. They are a cleansing reminder that you are still alive, you feel deeply, and you are still moving forward. You don't have to hold it all in. You can let it go. If you're not in spaces that allow you to be that vulnerable, then maybe you need to reevaluate your situation, the people that you're around, so that you can be in spaces that you can fully be yourself and that you can fully let everything out and let it go without judgment, without fear, and without always feeling like you have to be the strong one. If there's one thing I hope that you take from today, it's that your tears are not something to hide or be ashamed of. They are a part of your story, just like your laughter, just like your strength. Every tear you've ever shed has carried a piece of pain or joy that your body needed to release. And with every release, you make room for peace, clarity, and whatever's meant to come next. So when the world feels heavy, just let it be heavy. Then let it pour out. Allow your emotional volcano to erupt. You're not breaking down, you're making space. Thank you for trusting me with your truth and letting me share mine. Remember, your tears are not a sign of weakness. They are proof that you are human, that you care, and that you are healing. Until next time, stay open, stay soft, and don't forget to cry. This has been your safe space, a place to yap.